Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's live broadcast, which I'm very pleased to be delivering along with an absolute pack of exciting guests who have plenty of wonderful stories and initiatives and experience that they're going to share with us ahead of this Saturday's Zero Waste Festival that's taking place down at Fed Square in Melbourne. Now, for all of you around the country, of course, not all of you can get down to Fed Square, but the idea of tonight was a chance to basically get an introduction to some of the speakers and some of the specialists and hear about some of the projects that they are already involved with and some of the projects that they're going to talk about and be involved with at the event on Saturday. So to start with, please let us know where you're joining us from, what town, what city, and of course, what country are you coming in from in terms of Indigenous country. We've got Brett Pearce from Radelaide, Chris Sharman from Glen Innes. G'day, Chris. Karen, always lovely to see you. And Giovanni Luca, welcome to you too. I'm coming to you tonight from my hometown and suburb. I'm on Gadigal land of the Gadigal and Bidigal land of the Eora Nation, and I'd like to acknowledge that when all is said and done, everything that we're talking about tonight and everything that the Sustainable Living Festival is about is really connected to the longest standing sustainability advocates. And that's our First Nations culture, which has been sustaining and probably even more so regenerating this land for thousands of years. So it's wonderful to be able to connect to that through a festival and through a conversation that we're all going to share this evening. Oh, no sound. Is that right? Can you hear me? Is there any sound issues? Hi from Cave Speech. Hello, Helen Reynolds. Hello, Coral Bay. Good on you, Tonk. If there's any sound issues, can you let me know? Can you hear me? Ange Oliver. G'day, Ange, from up on the Goldie. Can you just let us know? Reading the captions under fiery sunny coast skies. Yes, can hear you. Good. All right, we're all good. Sound is good. So sorry for that. I think whoever it was that I have sound, Tony Island. Hey, because I go outside and look up, it's a rare blue sky, blue supermoon tonight, a supermoon. Yeah, well, I can't see anything here in Sydney because it's been belting down this afternoon. There's a few G-ups going on there about Karen who can't hear. Okay, so thanks for sharing with us where you're coming from, and really looking forward to hearing from our guests tonight. Thanks for joining us. And first up, I want to bring, and for many of you who have been involved with these zero waste conferences, the first couple that we did online during lockdown, you would know this person here, Kirsty Bishop-Fox. Kirsty, good evening.
Hi, Costa. How are you?
Great to see you, and great to see that the Zero Waste Festival is charging ahead this year at Fed Square on Saturday. Tell us a bit about it and get everyone fired up.
It's great. Would you believe it's the 6th year that we've done this? The 4th in person?
Wow. So there's the 2 online, but then there's been 4. Wow, that's building some momentum.
Yeah, started in 2018 from really humble beginnings. Actually, I might recap now that we've opened that up. It actually didn't intentionally start as a festival. It was a few of us who were getting together, and we thought we would have an event. This one, I'm pretty sure it was in August after Plastic Free July. We wanted to get people, off the social media and to come and join us in person. And it was just kind of like you're going to do like a speed data zero waster kind of thing. Learn about composting, learn about fixing and repairing, maybe cloth nappies if that was your thing. Then we got a speaker and a clothes swap, and all of a sudden we're like, this is more like a festival. And I guess that's how it began.
Wow. And how's the sort of transformation back to live gone as far as an event and getting that organised and so on?
Yeah, it's really good. It's really exciting. Like we were live back in 2022 as well, which was great. So we just feel that we're building on that and creating the momentum as we go. And you just can't compare the online. I mean, online is great, but in live, like we're going to have a clothes swap there, which I think Kate might talk about when she comes on, and repair cafes and mending, which Tamara will talk about. Then, of course, we've got like a full program between 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., including a film screening of The Endangered Generation, which is a recently released doco.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one. That sounds interesting. What's that all about?
Yeah, it's a little bit about waste, but a lot more about the climate and the things that we've done about climate and things we can do. It's also about some of the things that we've lost and we're losing over time. So it even goes down the path of the Indigenous cultures and the languages. Like there's a lot of languages out there, but some of them, the languages aren't in practice. And John Bradley, I'm really excited. John Bradley is a researcher at Monash Uni in Melbourne. He'll be in the Q&A along with Rebecca Henry. Who'll be talking to that. So that's a really exciting piece. And if you can't make the festival because you're not in Melbourne and you get the opportunity to watch it, then make sure you do.
Unreal. That's great that there's that level of connection through the film platform, because there's plenty of good stuff coming out around regenerative aspects of, well, not sustainability, but regeneration. Rachel Ward just released her film about her regenerative farming journey. And of course, there's 2040 and all of the support programming that goes along with that. So, I look forward to following that film up.
Yeah, I just put here, I've actually just pulled this up. I really love the way, this is not really a spoiler because it comes up very quickly, but just to give you a context of it, it's like if you were called upon Mother Nature, like Mother Nature called upon you to be her messenger to tell the next generation, what story would you tell the future about where we're at now? And it's really interesting when you look at the things that we're doing that don't make sense. What would you even tell the past generations about what we're doing if you met up with them in the world? Yeah.
Actually, just while we're on that topic, that's a ripper because and I think I've got it here if I'm lucky. Yeah, it is too. I mean, I'm involved with junior land care, and I'm doing some stuff tomorrow actually, but it's part of biodiversity month, and part of this launch that we're doing tomorrow for junior land care is about children writing a love letter to the land, which is really nice. And the school that we're going to visit, what we're going to do is get the students to write a love letter to the land and then put it into a time capsule, and then they can open it up. And, it sort of ties in with that sense that, I was at a school sustainability conference on Friday, and in First Nations culture in the US, they talk about 7 generations, planning for 7 generations ahead. And here we are battling to even think about 3 years in a political cycle, which actually only turns out to be 15 months before they start trying to cover their butts and get re-elected. It's such a we got to do better. We definitely have to do better, because we're not solving everything in 15 months with those goggles on and that lens. But anyway, the love letter to the land, I really love that idea, because it's about connection, and really everything that all of the speakers at the festival and those of us that are joining us tonight are going to talk about is that connection to your habits, connection to your actions, and how they have consequence.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you reckon? Will we rattle the green room?
Yeah. Let's bring Bianca Cottle in. Rattle the green room. I like that.
I just thought that's a different way of thinking. Here she is. Let me ring everybody. There she is.
As Bianca comes in, Bianca's the founder of Bring Your Own Containers. And I've known Bianca for quite some years. She's also one of our founding committee members of Zero Waste Victoria. She's not so much involved in Zero Waste Victoria because she's really busy doing her own thing, but with family and with work. But Bring Your Own Container campaign is something that I really thought would be great for us to talk about, because although we're having a chat about at the festival, it's something that everyone can do. And speaking of future generations, it just makes sense, don't you think, Bianca?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give a quick bit of backstory for Beware Containers, it's something I started back in 2018. And it was really I'd been through like a really big health scare, and I was just questioning what I was doing in my corporate job and what was I achieving. And I really, really made a big career change to move towards sustainability and learned about Zero Waste Victoria, fell into the Facebook group there, and I was having this chat with people. A lot of us were, cutting down our waste at home, and what was the next step? I could agonize over these small pieces of soft plastic, but what could I do to really help aid others take a similar journey and reduce waste in their shopping? And so people were talking about bringing containers to butchers. Can I do it? Am I allowed to? Is it illegal? My shop said I can't, it's not legal. And there was just so much confusion. So that's where the idea was really born out of, trying to make it clear for everyone, like, what is the rules? What are they allowed to do? Where can they go? So a lot of people were saying, oh yeah, my butcher's fine. I can bring my container there. So, and I thought it would be great if there was a map that just showed people where you could go and not have to worry about it, not feel anxious. So that's where we started. I started build the website, bewarecontainers.org, and we've got an online map there where people can see where they can go in their local areas, and then also add businesses really easily as well. It only takes about a minute to put a new business on, which is really cool.
Wow, so I just typed that in, byocontainers.org. There it is, everyone. I just put it up on the chat. What sort of numbers multiplied? How did it grow? How many did you start with, and what did you see happen?
Yeah, we started with just really a Facebook group. So it kind of came out of a Facebook chat, and then we decided, let's start a Facebook group. And we didn't even know what to call it. I think I called it like Campaign for Bringing Your Own Containers in Victoria or something really long-winded like that.
Hashtag.
Where do we go from here? So a few of us were just chatting, and we're like, it'd be cool to have a website, cool to have a map, and yeah, let's call it BYO Containers. And that's sort of how it was born. And we were sort of linked in with Trashless Takeaway. You might have heard of Trashless Takeaway. They had a very similar concept for takeaway restaurants, cafes, and had a map already built. And we actually spoke to them, and they were very happy to share that map technology with us, which was fantastic. And that's really how we got our start. We were focused more on butchers and delis across Victoria, and wanted to surface certainly a lot of the information about the legislation. So I'm the kind of person who likes to do a deep dive, and I'm not scared of reading lengthy documents. So I read the legislation and really just pulled out the nice little summary for businesses and customers who want to try and do the right thing, and tell them how they can do it safely, and what the requirements are in terms of legislation. So that's where we started. We put some tips together, some fact sheets, and built a poster, and had that map. And now we've taken it nationally last year. And we've amalgamated with Trashless Takeaway, and we have nearly 2,000 businesses there, and we're growing. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's across Australia now, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of, it has that kind of feel about it from me just listening to this for the first time. It has that classic, the Share Waste app about it, in the sense that, when people see something on a map and then they expand it and they see their local area, it kind of immediately gives them a sense of connection, let alone the fact that they can click on that and go, oh, okay, there's this local shop, and there's that deli, or there's that butcher, or there's that's whatever it is, that store. And you can't beat that localized connection. But then what you've done with the map, and now nationalizing it, you're giving it that continent-wide feel to say that this ain't no cottage thing. It's actually really nationwide, and we've got momentum, and we mean business. That's really that's awesome, Bianca.
Thank you. Yeah, our key mission really is to make ourselves obsolete. We joke about what we dream about is not needing the website, not needing a map, because everywhere just shops like this. So that's our number one goal, is to normalize this. And I think having that map, as you say, you sort of blow it up and you're like, oh, actually there's 5-6 places around me who welcome containers, and some of them even offer a discount to do so. And it feels more normal because you're not the only one.
Yeah, I like you say, that's the ultimate destination. That yes, you had to go through and confront just the inconsistency. I mean, just there's still inconsistency around even keep cups. You still get vigilantes going, oh no, I can't take that. I'm not obliged to take that, and so on and so forth. When the reality is that they can, and I've seen this in transit in places when I travel a lot, and one person says, yeah, I'll fill it up, and the next person, oh no, and so I just say, all right, well, don't worry, I won't have it. I don't want a single-use PFAS filled cup, so please keep it. And doing all that work ultimately, like you say, is with that destination to not have to do it anymore, that it's just across the board.
Yeah. And one of our really exciting that I want to share with everyone as well, we're sort of focused on trying to advocate for a law change. So I certainly realized that, it's hard for business, and particularly in the current economic environment, even more challenging. A lot of places don't want to take risks. So if we can make a really simple law change that makes it clear and spells it out clear as day, it's safe. Customers have to bring a clean container. That's their responsibility. And business, it's safe for them to serve in a clean container as long as they have suitable protocols.
And Bianca, can you tell, because the law change, it's a law change for Victoria, but it's not for South Australia, it's already there.
Yeah, so the law is already there in South Australia. So the South Australia Greens introduced that bill to Parliament. It did take some time, but they got it through with complete support from all parties. And so that's already enacted. We're really trying to follow that model and spread that around the country. And it's really just a common sense law, a really small amendment. And Australia is governed by the same FSANZ legislation. It's actually Australia and New Zealand wide, that legislation. So I think it should be quite simple. We just have to get the political will behind us, which is what we're working with now.
And if anyone would like to support that in their state, in Victoria or even anywhere else, you're welcome to be in touch with Bianca or myself, because it would be great to see this Australia-wide, not just in a couple of selected states who are finally thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I suppose it's that kind of thing, isn't it, Bianca? You get a couple of states on board and build that momentum, and then hopefully that common sense will kick in and it just becomes across the board. But it still needs those examples there for others, to fall off the perch and dive in.
My hope is once we get it in Victoria, that we can take it to New South Wales and other states as well, and just spread it throughout the country. And who knows, maybe we'll even look to New Zealand next. I never expected that having a Facebook chat would lead to me starting a campaign and having a website that has nearly 2,000 businesses listed on there. And we've grown as well recently. We've added a lot more categories. So people want to shop with containers for many things, and we recognize that. So we've added pet foods, beauty products, alcohol refills. So you'd be surprised. Like, there are places out there who are already offering this. There's even, I've seen, we've got one listing for a company that does oil, so olive oils. So you can go to the farm gate and get your bottles filled up there.
Yeah, I just you'll enjoy this one, Bianca, from Ange. When my mum was young, growing up in Victoria, if you wanted Chinese food, they had to take their own pots and pans.
My mum tells me the same stories. I love it. I love it. Actually, we had, during lockdowns, I felt very privileged because I have these networks with local businesses near me, and they know what I'm about and the campaign, and they love it. Our local Chinese would actually, her route to go and buy fresh ingredients for the day was not far from my house. So she would come by, pick up our bag of containers, go do her shopping, go back to store, and we'd have our order ready to go. And then someone would come and drop it off at our door. So we had BYO containers during the lockdowns.
Wow. That's unreal. That's unreal. Well, look, Bianca, thanks for giving us such a great insight into the project. For everyone watching, whether it's live now or on the replay, the links are there. I think Kirsty put them up there in the chat. So follow those links, and if you can be there and catch up with Bianca on the weekend, of course, you Melbourneites and Victorians, get on down. Any final thoughts, Bianca?
I'll be on the stand with my tablet ready to type in your favorite business that you bring your own container to. And if you want to jump online, you can do that at any time. There's also free posters there. So get across it. And I'll also be speaking at 4 o'clock with Kirsty all about the legislation environment.
Yeah, fantastic. Lynn Marie says same in Reservoir for Chinese in the 70s. It's interesting, and here we are 50 years later.
Let's bring it back. If anyone has a photo of them going to a Chinese store with their nice big pot, please send it through. I'd love to put it across our socials.
I know, and I bet back in the day they never ever thought they would be hearing the story and going, really? Like, that's how it started? Can we go back there? They never would have thought that that's something that would have excited us. It takes me back to the start of Endangered Generations. Like, what would you tell the future and what would you tell the past? It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Bianca, thank you so much. Have a great day on Saturday, and I look forward to seeing how the festival goes and hearing back from people about, what and how many additional businesses get added to your list this week.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you, Costa. Thank you, Kirsty.
Thanks, Bianca.
No worries, Bianca. See ya.
Bye. Let's bring in Jean and Steve.
Yeah, there they are. Oh, straight away.
Jean and Steve are from Cirque du Soil. They're a circular waste consultancy and social enterprise advocating for circular and regenerative neighbourhoods through reduction and transformation of waste in our urban food system. Tell us more about that.
The best intro I've heard all day.
Did I type that?
Yeah, I'm going to be up front. I read Jean's bio, so you can thank.
Nice.
Thank you. Do
you want to lead off?
Yeah, where do I start? So what's Cirque du Soil? It really means circular soil, but also can be translated to circus or waste, really. So we kind of started sort of tapping into my background's in architecture and placemaking. And so for the longest time, trying to figure out what we should be doing around emissions and buildings. And one of the things that really became our ethos is around what's happening in the urban environment, what's a tricky, sticky situation for people to even do the simplest thing as source separation. And composting was our low-lying fruit. But really, it's not, because it's actually really difficult and it's an interesting space, but that's 60% of your bin. So since we started in just before lockdown, and our target demographic that we try to subscribe to is the high street and apartments and buildings of all sorts, really. So
you call them the left behind segments, Costa. So when we look at all the different places where impact can be had, it's brilliant that we've got different layers of government doing different things, but it's very hard for statewide initiatives and local government initiatives to reach everyone. So I think that's one of the interesting things about Circ has been not starting in the easy streets, but starting where council can't reach and where the problems are just much bigger.
And one of the things as well is that we're quite aware that every council's working on a circular economy roadmap, but and I came from that realm of like let's make a beautiful map, but then there were a lot of people who were like, okay, now how do we implement this on the ground? And so I have a very soft spot for high streets and our mom and pop shops, takeaways, our fish and chipperies, even the Chinese takeaway shop. There's all sorts, but we actually began by going in and stress testing and asking all these businesses, what are the barriers? What's hard in trying to source separate? How do you start even? And so we started with composting. And so we actually run our own community compost collective. So we began with that. And this was our fully circular journey from contamination to, hey, are you guys rubbish people, to all sorts of very interesting insights throughout the whole journey. But what we do that's different is that we use food recycling technology to break food waste down. And we the tech we use, we've got a great partnership with a really cool local manufacturer, and they break down anywhere from 400 kilos to 1 ton a day. And they have a new machine coming out that's 2 tons. It will break down 2 tons a day. And so we just literally finished research and development trials with RMIT, supported by Sustainability Victoria. And we have just been validating the outputs of this technology to see whether it grows good. And so our project's called Grow Good, and we can, as at this point, I can confidently say that it does grow good. And now we're trying to figure out how else does it grow good. So there's a lot of projects around growing food that we are excited about.
Well, I think that's one of the nutty things about the world anyway. I mean, Costa, you know a bit about gardening, but how much?
Yeah, a little bit, just a bit.
A little bit, yeah. You look at how much synthetic fertilizer we bring into this country. And I know a lot of it goes into agro. It's $1 billion industry. At the same time, the number one global issue that we can actually affect is actually getting food waste out of landfill.
Yeah.
All the same nutrients we need to grow.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, it's like, well, yes, you need a myriad of different things, but from the circularity point of view, and you want to be zero waste, you loop it back into the food system. And
apparently, Ukraine was one of the places we were importing fertilizer from. And obviously, when all that stuff happened, like, we were really surprised. And so we actually went to the Flower and Garden Show this year and did a big public survey to ask what people thought about, would you use fertilizer made from food waste? And some people actually said, most people said yes, thank God. But some people actually said, why? And it's been quite funny to just explore this understanding of, like, none of us come from an agriculture background, but we've learned a lot just with the soil science team. Yes.
I think Bianca was touching on it before a little bit around systems change type stuff. One of the principles Circ operates on is actually meeting people where they are. So, like, it's easy to get really, really outraged and evangelical around zero waste and around all these other aspects. But you think about if we want to work with a food business, what are the number one problems in a food business? Well, today it might be staffing. Tomorrow it might be the cost of goods going up, their energy going up 25%. There's all these realities that people live in. And we know, when we look at these little initiatives like, keep cups and things like that, that's great. They're not little. Well, on a carbon footprint, they're actually quite small, but visually they're quite big. But you've got to meet people where they are. And so from that point of view, as a sort of a waste consultancy aiming for going beyond zero waste and regenerating systems, you've got to actually, go with the stream if you want to kind of use biomimicry, nature language. Tapping into something to go, well, what's the common language we speak? I'm a small business, whether it's a food business or something else. I want to, I need to feed myself. I want to, and that's the economic stuff that's moving, the moving parts, but I need to find more value in my business. So how do you help people change to a different system and find lasting value? And I think that's kind of the great question that everyone's wrestling with in zero waste, because I won't lie, you cannot beat having a big intervention with having a policy or a law change. The sad thing is we know how our system works, and that most of that stuff is written by the likes of, you know, my friends from decades ago, the National Retail Association and all the rest of them, where we go, look, we want systems change, but we want to write the legislation. And then what we end up with is that the very large monopolies end up gaining more of an advantage out of that than the small businesses. So I think it's all around doing that in the right order, but finding value for everyone ultimately.
Yeah, that's interesting, and true. You know, when you've got the fox guarding the hen house, you know, it makes it a bit of a stitch up. But you know, probably the big thing about an event like this on the weekend, the big thing about what Bianca's doing, the thing that you're doing, they're providing the alternative, not just the protest. You know, protesting the system and marching against the system doesn't get people on board, because people have got enough noise. You know, they don't want to have another dose of, oh, we're going to hell in a handbasket and everything's screwed. Like, they want to see something. And, you know, there's Bianca just going, right, well, suddenly she's created a national movement. And it's exactly the same as what you're talking about. Like, yes, there's FOGO, but FOGO is a certain structure within the existing structure. And, you know, as sad and all as it is, and I've said this, you know, in segments on the telly, you know, I've come to grips with the fact that not everyone is as passionate about compost as I am or you are. So what we need to do is not damn them or shame them. We need systems, as you said, and I like what you said. We've got to take it to them so that they can get buy-in, and you know, they get buy-in through education. They get buy-in through familiarity and a story like you're telling, and even just the name, Cirque du Soil, like that comes at them without a stick. It's kind of a bit of curiosity and like, where do I, maybe I connect with that somehow. So, you know, both you and Bianca, both of these stories, and you know, Kirsty from the broad arc of a you know, a zero waste conference. I mean, bang, there we have it in those two. And then, you know, I just throw on the top of that, you know, Giovanni said back here, what I don't get is that building sites don't separate. And at the end of the day, you know, it's exactly what you're talking about, but just a little nudge into, you know, the building sector. And you know, what you're doing is the residential and the restaurant, you know, commercial eatery sector, wherever you're fitting in there. But, you know, you look at that, and I drove off this morning, and I drove past the skip bin, and, you know, there was a metal 44-gallon drum. There was a 3/4 unused roll of poly irrigation pipe. There was, you know, some very good timber offcuts. There was all these things. And you just think, you know, that may get a little bit separated, but there's also the high likelihood that a lot of it's just going out, you know. So I like that, you know, Giovanni brings that up and says, well, you know, we've got this opportunity, and your models, don't underestimate the power of your models, you know, you guys and Bianca, because that's what's going to shift the status quo, you know, and shift people's thinking, because it's right there on their street, you know, and they suddenly see a skip bin that has 7 slots in it, you know, and the builders have to start doing that. So that needs to go back up the chain into the TAFEs and into the universities, and, you know, and so what you're doing is really valuable.
Believe me, I come from, my background is in architecture, and I can't wait we start with composting first, and now we've just moved up to food system, but, you know, construction waste coming for it. And it's a big waste sector that, you know, I can't even imagine when we would start, but people are starting to get onto it. And the more exciting thing to me is that the more business models that showcase circularity, the more people start to wrap their heads around, like, oh, that's what that means, you know. So yeah, more stories.
Yeah, I think there's a bit empowering as well. Going to share a little bit of really exciting tech we've just got delivered to the country. Yeah. I love how information can actually really guide us and empower us, right? So recently, through a company we work with in Singapore, we've just taken delivery of this really cool set of scales with a camera that uses AI technology for tiny businesses. And you go, this is going to go in the back of a business that it's going to basically, it takes a photo of the food waste and it categorizes it, and it uses the facial recognition technology that we've taught through COVID to recognize what the waste is, and then inform the small business owner what it is and how to reduce it. And you go, from that point of view, this information wasn't available to them. And you go, well, that is an amazingly empowering bit of something that can be really, really helpful to know, well, I can make stock from this, or I can trim my plates servings by this amount. And I just love, again, how in this movement and in zero waste, it's so open, so sharing, because ultimately when you come back down to it, the value of a festival in particular is the sharing of ideas.
Exactly.
And access to tools.
And access to tools too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that stuff that you're talking about, just that camera activated AI technology that can do certain things like that to give a quick assessment without even a visit almost. There's positive sides to AI that we need to embrace, and of course there's the other sides that we need to manage and control and not just go off-piste and off the leash. But that's another story.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is that nobody stands there next to their bin and stares at it for very long. And so if we don't want to, or if someone, we do, but if someone doesn't want to, then let's get some AI to, the future is that anyway. So why not harness it, for ourselves to source separate better? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got any other questions for Jean and Steve, Kirsty?
Yeah,
or
I think they've covered a lot. I just wanted to note for those who are thinking about coming on Saturday, we've got Anthony Damasi, who's a founder and practice leader of an architecture firm, and they do a lot of the refits and renovations and it's really all about looking at the sustainability and building that into renovating homes, because there's a lot of waste in homes and there are a lot of ways that it doesn't have to be as wasteful. So that's certainly something to come along and find out about as well too.
What time does he come on, Kirsty?
He is on at 12:30 in the Reducing Waste as Climate Action panel discussion. That'll be moderated by Alice Zavlaski, and we've got food waste covered. We've got Buy Nothing Month covered, Indigenous perspectives. It's going to be an amazing panel, quite broad in the sense of it, but that's a 12:30 discussion panel.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Jean and Steve, thank you for giving us such a great flavour of not only what you're up to, but on Saturday, but more so about, how you've come onto the journey to this point in what you're doing, and really keen to watch what you're doing and share and amplify it over the months and years ahead.
Thank you. I like how you said years. It sounds
exactly. Yeah, of course it is.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. I can't help it, but I love giving book recommendations. This is my absolute favorite thing I'm reading right now. It's only $37 at Readings. And it is the most well displayed thing about everything you can do from an intervention in terms of zero waste and everything. So grab it and have a read.
Carbon Almanac. I just threw it up there, everyone. Well, thanks for that, Steve. That's awesome. I'll definitely look that up, and that'll get me through some transit times over the months ahead.
Lovely. Thanks, Costa.
All right, then. Thanks, Jean. Thanks, Steve. So what do you reckon, Kirsty? I think Kate's next off the block.
Kate's next, is she? All right, let's bring Kate in then. Kate is the founder of Sustainable Lifestyles. She also is a founder of the Clothing Exchange as well too. But Kate's been doing a lot of research on sustainable living. She's interviewed a lot of people. She'll talk more about that. And she's got a book that's coming up very, very soon to be published called Live More with Less.
Thank you.
Kate.
Hi. How you going?
Really good, and great to be able to catch you for a bit of an outline of what you do and what you're going to be up to on the weekend.
Oh, I'm delighted to have the chance to chat with you about it.
So give us a bit of a background on where you're heading and what you're up to.
Well, I'll start off about the kind of eco mischief I get up to, and then I'll pivot to what we're doing with the festival. But I guess I've been I kind of grew up green. I literally played with one of the first solar cars as one of my toys and collected cans in the 80s. And then I went on to be the model greenie who started a clothing exchange model that became popular and adopted all around the world. And, had my veggie patch, didn't drive a car, all things were going really, really well. And then I had children. And of course, awakened a kind of latent consumer within. And I must say that I kind of fell off the green wagon, and a lot of my decisions were really led by convenience consumerism, just trying to keep my sanity intact while I had young kids. So I guess from the perspective of having lived various shades of green, I am writing a book called Live More with Less that helps busy people find a relatable way into creating their sustainable lifestyle. So I'm advocating for a bit of a medium green approach, which allows for the kind of ebbs and flows of life and is empathetic to the challenge that is developing your own sustainable lifestyle against a system that wants you to buy and waste more. So that's the book. I've had the pleasure of talking to so many wonderful Australian leaders, including Costa, I think your friend Hannah Maloney.
Yeah.
Kirsty. I've a lot of the panelists that are going to feature, like Anna Savlasky and who else? And Natalie Isaacs and Tamara. So it's a rich kind of book all about the different ways that we can approach sustainable living and actually really upgrade our lives, become more connected, and ultimately happier as we go. So that's the book. So that's a work in progress at the moment. That's nearly finished. And then I guess my more recent project is all about reducing food waste, because I've done a lot of work into researching sustainable fashion problems and created the clothes swapping as a solution. But I was really becoming very worried about food waste. So I recently partnered with naturopath Georgia Harding of Well Nourished fame. And together we created the Fridge Edit, which essentially became a project where I was like the before. So I had this embarrassing overstocked fridge. And when I had my eye off the prize, I would waste a lot of food, with the best of intentions, just a little bit at a time, this food waste would accrue. Georgia had the goddess fridge that belongs on Instagram, the pinnacle of good health, orderly, amazing. And when we tucked into what the Stockholm Environment Institute and, local organisations like CSIRO were recommending for curbing food waste, we realised there was a great role to be had in learning how to edit your fridge and plan your meals and just those really tangible tips. So you reduce the food waste, you alleviate the eco guilt, which I know for sure is potent amongst a lot of people and doesn't necessarily serve us that well, can be a bit unmotivating. Makes meal times easier, and certainly people got really excited about transforming their fridges from, mine looked like a uni share house fridge. It was crammed so full, and now it's great and plenty of breathing space. I've gotten over my condiment buying addiction. It's a system. Essentially, these things are systems that work to help people buy less and live more. So drawing from the Kitchen Edit, I'm really excited to have lined up an awesome panel for this weekend. These are absolute superstars. I've got Anna Matilda, the Urban Nana, and she does what she calls scraptastic cooking, which is all about putting the odds and ends in the kitchen to good use. Now, she's also going to tuck into composting, and we're sort of looking at the whole food system because this panel is called Fixing a Forked Food System, which admittedly it's hard to fix the whole food system in an hour, but we're going to give it a red hot crack. So Anna's awesome because she composts. She's really great at foraging. She's really hands-on, and she does everything from the perspective of a renter. A lot of times we think that you need to have your own house, you need to have this massive plot of land. We have all these misconstrued ideas about what you have to have to be sustainable. And I feel like Anna pushes through that really well and shows some really enticing examples. We've got Jade Miles, who is an absolute visionary. She represents Sustainable Table and does a lot of that regenerative food system thinking. But she's a local food advocate, and she's got her own book called Future Steading. So she's going to be sharing these really beautiful ideas about creating seasonal rituals and, how to be really resourceful with the food that you grow, how you preserve it, and how you make it taste delicious, obviously. Which brings me to my third special guest for Saturday, which is Toby Puddick. And he is, I think some of us might know him from being Jamie Oliver's friend, but he has been doing some fantastic stuff in terms of socially aware initiatives like Jamie's 15, that the branch of that was in Australia. But more recently, he's pursued his plant enthusiastic ways and created the most sustainable meal service he can at this stage. And it is delicious, and it is really, really clever, the strategies he's taking to save waste, but also create a service that thrives and appeals to the convenience that, a lot of time poor people really appreciate. So we had an initial chat, this panel, and I'm telling you, I left very, very hungry indeed. There's a lot of really tangible ideas that I think the audience will take away feeling really inspired. So then we've also got Belle Goldman, and she is the CEO of Foodfield, which is a little bit like, a food rescue service where we're quite familiar with Oz Harvest, Second Bite. These are all great food services. And Foodfield is predominantly youth-led, and they've been doing some fantastic work where they will service businesses with food rescue that are maybe a smaller scale and, some of the bigger operators can't necessarily cater to. So she's going to be shedding some light on the problem of food waste and some of the wonderful work she's doing to address that. So that is the panel lineup for the weekend.
Well, that is certainly sounding like a cracker panel. I know Jade, and Anna. I'm really keen to learn a bit more about Foodfield and the youth side of that. That sounds fantastic. Thank you for explaining that with such a clear and articulate sort of program. Yeah.
Look, it started like this, Costa. This is the spaghetti of brain that I have. That's how I start, and then that's how I finish.
Oh my God, I'm loving the finish side. I got the spaghetti side. Don't worry about that. There's plenty of spag bowl going on here, but I don't necessarily plate it up into that beautifully Helvetica font, with multiple bold types and oh, gracious me. Yeah, no, I tend to just slap it on the plate, and there's no doing this one on the plate, to clean it. You got the fingerprints on there, and now that's great. Like, what a great panel that's going to be. I wish I was a blue banded bee on the wall.
Yeah, well, certainly they're great people to follow and learn from in other capacities as well. But I guess in addition to this panel, I'm excited to be popping along. There's an awesome clothing exchange that there seems to be a lot of interest in, which is great. So the clothing exchange is hosting that, which is run by Kirsten Frederick. So she's out of Sydney. She's behind the scenes. And on the front face, we've got Jenna Flood from Ironic Minimalist, who is going to be running the clothes swaps. And then I'm popping along to say hi to everybody and commend them on being awesome and swapping clothes and remind them that Melbourne was actually the birthplace of the global clothes swapping movement. So I'm looking forward to celebrating that with people too, because everyone comes along to a clothes swap excited about what they might get. But I love seeing how thrilled people are to see their unwanted pants on a new pair of legs, making someone else really happy. And it's a really feel-good event.
Well, thank you for taking the time this evening to have a yarn with us and give us that insight into all of those wonderful people that you've compiled on the panel. I know that you need to rock and roll, so I won't keep you any longer. Thank you for being with us, and have a great time. I look forward to hearing how it goes.
Thanks very much, Costa. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot, Kate.
Look forward to seeing you on the weekend.
See you there.
Yeah, did you have anything else to add there, Kirsty?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about the close-up, and I really resonate where Kate says it's really wonderful to see something that you used to own and loved but don't wear for whatever the reason, go to somebody else who's going to love it anymore. I was at a close-up and I had a shirt that I actually really, really loved, but it just looked better on the rack than me. And when I saw someone wearing it, I said, "Did you get that from?" And she was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Oh, it looks amazing on you." So I do get that completely, apart from the things that you get. Like the top I'm wearing came from a clothes swap. So it's it definitely saves so much going to landfill. There's so many clothes there's no need to buy them new when you look at what's in someone's wardrobe and not being worn.
Yeah, exactly. And when you think about there's a rough stat that says there's enough clothes on the planet right now to clothe the next 2 generations.
Yeah.
Even if you want to swap that, even if you want to be conservative and say there's enough here to clothe the next generation, well, then, what are we doing? What are we doing? So, plenty of room for creative solutions, that's for sure. Plenty of love here, Kate. Everyone's really enjoyed and been sharing that with us in the comments that I've been throwing up. So, have a great time on the weekend, and thanks again, Kate.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
See ya.
Okay. Now, speaking of clothing, that's the perfect segue for Tamara Rusell.
Hey, Tamara.
Yeah. Yes,
Here
Tamara Rusell. Bring her on.
Bring her on.
Tamara Rusell, you can also find her at Karina Textiles. She's a textile artist and passionate advocate of sustainable living. She's also on the committee of Zero Waste Victoria and planning crew for the Zero Waste Festival. She'll tell us more about it in a moment, but she's coordinating the Mending Circle and Repair Cafe. So she's certainly all about fixing things to keep them out of landfill.
Definitely.
Hi, Tamara.
Hi.
How are you?
Great.
Well, for those of you watching, Tamara was part of the Zero Waste Festival broadcasts over the last couple of years, and also some of the Zero Waste Victoria cook-alongs that we've done, diligently tapping away and being back of house while me and Kirsty whatever other chaos we had going on. Tamara was just there holding the ship as we rocked it left, right, and centre. So great to have you here, Tamara, front of screen this time. And
there we go.
Yeah, tell us a bit about what I loved what Kate said. Tell us a bit about what menace you're up to over the weekend at the festival.
Yeah. Well, I've been organising the Repair Cafe and Mending Circle, as Kirsty said. We're working with the Brunswick Tool Library and also the St Kilda Repair Cafe, who'll have their volunteers along to mend things. And it's just such a great initiative. What we're trying to do is normalise the act of mending. Instead of people thinking, oh my God, it's broken, I'll chuck it in the bin and go to Kmart, we're trying to say to them, it's really easy to fix a lot of these things, particularly clothing. So at the moment in Australia, the stats are that we throw away 6,000 kilograms of clothing every 10 minutes. That is insanity. And a lot of those clothes are polyester and plastic, basically. So what we're doing is putting microplastics into landfill, into the waterways and everything else. So it's just a really bad situation. Throwing away metallic things, like your sewing machines, your cook pots, your toasters, everything else. We're putting a lot of really precious metals into landfill. And it's kind of crazy when, if you go back 20, 30 years, you used to have a local repairman down the street you'd take it to. Our clothes we used to repair because they were precious. I mean, I remember growing up, and I'm not going to say my age, but it was basically that we didn't have all these things. You know, sports girls started when I was about 20. So, and that was one of the first sort of fast fashion things in Australia. So you had to make your own clothes or adjust your clothes. So my passion is teaching people how to mend their clothes or reinvent their clothes is another thing I do. And basically, if someone mends an item of clothing, it's been shown that they tend to keep it for at least a year longer. And that is huge because they've spent the time and the effort on it, that they actually appreciate it. If they go take an item to a repair cafe and get it fixed, they appreciate the fact that you can repair it. And that's what we're trying to advocate is things are repairable, and we should be able to repair things in Australia. So,
wow. Now, just while you're there, and I just want to put this in the comment. What did you say? 6,000 kilograms of clothing is being thrown away. How often?
Every 10 minutes.
What? Jeez.
Yeah.
6 tons. Like every 10 minutes. That's
so 36,000 kilograms of clothing an hour. It is insanity. And the thing is, you know, there's lots of shops, and I won't name any, but they advertise, and the whole thing is about cheap. If you're buying a T-shirt for $5, somebody along the line is not getting paid a living wage. Yep. And so what we have to think about is buying better quality and repairing it, loving our clothes, you know, going back to the stage where we had 1, maybe 2 suits in our wardrobes, not 20, where we had 3 or 4 T-shirts, but they were good quality and they lasted and we could repair them. You know, a lot of the stuff you're getting now, there's a lot of polyester in it. That's plastic. You know, our clothes are being made of plastic. There's a stat out there that came out recently that's saying that most of us are walking around with a credit card's worth of plastic in our system. That's scary because no one knows what it's going to do long term. And a lot of that's coming from our clothing. So we need to start really thinking about what we're wearing and what we're doing with those clothes.
Yeah, I liked what Giovanni said there about, you know, just all of those offcuts in the industry used to be reused and reprocessed, and you know now that you know for too long they've just been that's a cost to business, and we just throw it out. We just away we go.
And a lot of it is that the businesses, it's a storage costs and they don't worry about it. So if they can't get rid of it, they tend to either burn it or trash it, which has all sorts of repercussions. More and more we're getting charities coming along, and I've totally at the top moment forgotten the name of the charity, but they take a lot of these things that haven't been sold and store them and then sort them out for charities, so people can actually say what they want rather than just getting given things they don't. But still, you know, they're running out of space because they're getting so much clothing. And we really need to start thinking about, you know, do we need a new outfit every 5 minutes? And why can't we wear the same outfit 20 times?
It's interesting. Did you see that on the Craig Rucastle on the War on Waste, where they were talking about just that whole marketing, the power of that marketing machine, that they literally send you the thing saying, oh, buy 10, and then the next thing is buy 10 within the next half an hour and you'll save this, and bundle it up to buy $53 worth and we'll give you another 10 items. And then
and all these shops like Shein and everything, what they're doing is they're putting in really restricted amounts of clothing, and they're there for like a week or two. So if you don't buy it now, you won't get it, and that puts people into a panic, so they keep buying it. And it's like, you don't need it in the first place. You know, on War on Waste, they had the girl who came to the zero waste clothes swap who was spending thousands of dollars on stuff that was in her shed. It's like, really?
Yeah.
So, we need to think about it. And, you know, that's a wonderful thing. We'll have a load of people sitting around mending clothes. And if people want to come along and have a chat, that's fine. And then there'll be the repair cafe to mend other items and, you know, bring along your stuff, and hopefully we can save it all from landfill. Can't guarantee everything, because not everything can be saved and not everything's made that it's repairable, which is the shame.
Well, that is awesome. Thank you for explaining that. Do you have anything to sort of add there, Kirsty, in terms of where that fits in, where Tamara fits into the program and the day?
Yeah, Tamara's covered it really well. She won't be too far from the mending circle. She absolutely loves it. I think this is one of the first times in quite a while I've had a chat with Tamara without her actually doing something as we speak. She may have been doing that before she came on.
Yeah. And it's like, we have to think about our clothes, like the jeans that I will be wearing on Saturday, I've had for 15 years, and you will see that they are patched. The jumper I'm wearing now is patched, and you can make patching look great. So come along and see what everyone's doing and what we're wearing. And I'm going to do a little plug now. If as everyone's been plugging books, Erin Rhodes has this book out, and anyone who becomes a member of Zero Waste from now until the 30th of September will go in the draw to win a copy of it, and it's a fantastic book. So join up, guys. Come to the Zero Waste Festival and join up, or get on our website and become a member, because we really would like you to. And this is a great book to win.
Yes, and I've got a little segment in that book as well too. So if you don't have the book and you don't want to risk missing out on the prize draw, you can also purchase that book at the festival as well too. Erin is a co-founder of Zero Waste Victoria, and she very kindly donated some of those books for us to sell, which is absolutely amazing. And if you're, maybe you're new on the journey, or maybe you're partway through the journey and you're wanting some tips, that's a great book to give you some inspiration. And when you're done, you can certainly pass it on to somebody else to keep reading it as well too. Yeah.
Well, what do you reckon, Kirsty? We're right on 1 hour. Will we just throw everyone on for a quick 5-minute thought, and then we'll wrap it up?
Good to me. Sounds definitely good to me.
I think everyone's. Most people are still there in the green room. So let's bring.
While you're bringing them in,
I might. Steve, and there's Kate.
The doorbell just rang, and we got our first prototype of a kokodama grown with urban food waste. And we've got 8 down. I don't even know what we're testing them, but they're very cool. So I'm just fawning over how wet they are.
That's great.
That's hilarious. We got to share that with you.
Yeah, nice timing. It's all in the timing.
It is. But I just want to do a bit of a mention. I'm really excited about I'm excited about every panel discussion, but of course I'm moderating this panel, but I'm slightly a little bit biased. And we're opening with one called Can We Recycle Our Way Out of It? Which is definitely going to be an interesting one. We've got Deborah Leo from CSIRO, and for those of you who aren't familiar with CSIRO and what they're doing, they've actually got an ending plastic waste research project. And it's a national and international project that they're looking at. So that's a really interesting one too. We've got a plastics engineer. We've got Anisha Nettleton. She does a lot of agricultural recycling. So all the tarps that go onto grain and storage. And not only, I don't like the term recycling. It often gets used the wrong way, in the sense that the tarps that they actually recycle become tarps again. That is real recycling, as opposed to repurposing it and trying to figure out which road it's going to go into, because that's remanufacturing. It's not really recycling in my view. And then we've got, South Melbourne Market is going to be there and telling us how we can shop, not only how we can shop, but how they're actually encouraging their customers to shop without the waste. So it's going to be a really interesting discussion panel as well too. Lots of interesting ones there too. But so many often people, they think about, okay, so just, can I recycle this, and how do I recycle that? And sometimes you can't recycle things. Like right now in Australia, we can't recycle Tetra Paks. So the only way to, be sustainable about that is it can't be recycled. So let's just avoid that if we can. And, that's one example. There are other examples. Zero Waste Victoria is looking at produce bags, and to free the fruit, we're calling it, free the fruit from, that single-use waste. About a quarter of the plastic bags used, in somebody's shopping, depending on what they eat, it could be more if they eat a lot of fruit and veg, can be plastic bags. And it's a really easy thing not to switch out, but to completely avoid just by putting them into reusables or putting them loose into your box or your bag. So there's lots of things we can do. It sort of ties in with what Bianca's talking about as well.
I know in my regular shopping bag, I have a nice chili bag that has the foil lining. And so I take my containers in that, but it's got a nice little pocket on the side. So my reusable produce bag's just sitting there always.
And they're brilliantly easy to make. What we're doing with our workshops is using old net curtains, which are fantastic because they're strong, they don't fray, and they're really easy to sew up. And if you actually want to learn how to make your own and you can't come to one of our things, all the instructions are on the Zero Waste Victoria website to go in and make your own.
And I know that Safeway or Woolies, I mean, like Coles won't like us saying this, but like every time I'm caught out and I forget to bring a produce bag, I always go for the mushroom paper bags and I encourage that. And I give it to the worms.
I'm so glad, Kirsty, that you're tucking into this recycling business, because of all the things I've researched for my book, the fact that we downcycle so many things, like you said, it becomes flawed. The fact that we optimistically wish cycle so many things that don't belong, which I have to say has earned me a recycling shame sticker slapped on my bin. And the fact that we've only managed to recycle in Australia, I think it's under 13%, despite all our best efforts. I think we've got to focus on consuming less before we start to put our eggs in that recycling basket. It's really good.
Refuse is the word we need to all be using, is just refuse.
I was going to say, refuse number 1 in the 12R hierarchy, recycling is 10 out of 12. So I hope that doesn't spoil your panel conclusion.
Yeah, spoiler.
We've got a plastics engineer on there. It's very interesting. Plastic engineer, he's great, but sometimes it's kind of like, so you know how it's going into a road? And often the plastic engineers, which isn't a real big spoiler, will actually say it's a great solution. And it's not a bad solution on a super small scale, but depending on the figure you look at, 3 to 6% of plastics bags are being collected. Our roads don't need that much plastic. And if anyone watched War on Waste, and I put a post of this on my socials, the green plastic bottles, like I know the company, they actually put out, it's kind of like, so it's a vital resource for roads. No, green plastic bottles are not a vital resource for roads. They're just not. It's actually the manufacturer that's decided that they don't care. They don't need it to go back into a clear plastic bottle because they're above that. And quite frankly, they're not above that. And as consumers, we need to say, you know how you don't have clear plastic? Well, we're not buying it. It would be better again if they don't buy it at all, which is often, a better solution again too. But it's really about the design. It wasn't designed to support sustainability. And that's before I talk about the contents of the soft drink in that bottle.
I think it's sorry to geek out as well, but I love, like Kirsty knows, I love talking about the plastics and the composition as well. But I think a lot of people don't realize too, and this is the same for paper, by the way, the fibers themselves aren't infinitely recyclable. So every time you recycle, the fibers get shorter and shorter, and it's the same with textiles. There's only so many times they can go through the loop, even if they are going to go through the loop, and you always have to add virgin material to it. So recycling, even if you are turning it back into the same thing, it's still not a perpetual process. I think the only really fully recyclable materials is glass and aluminium, as far as I'm aware.
Well, and the biggest problem with them turning plastic bottles into textiles is that's it. That's the end of its life. Whereas if you have clear bottles, they can be made into bottles over and over and over again. As soon as you turn it into a piece of textile, it's done.
That's the worst. And do you know what? They sometimes get brand new bottles and turn it into the textiles. It's wild, just so they can.
It's insanity. It's this industry that is convincing us that it's all okay. The recycle symbols on your plastic were invented by the plastic manufacturers. They're not actually about recycling.
They actually weren't meant to be for consumers. It's actually meant to be a code. It was not meant to be a recycling system for us. It was meant to be a code for the recyclers so they knew what it was, but it just kind of really got people think that triangle of arrows means it's recyclable. It doesn't.
It's a good job.
Recycle and hope for the best.
Yeah. The wishes.
Our local council recently did an amazing body of work producing a small Bible to actually say what could be recycled and what couldn't be.
Oh.
And Tetra Paks came out, and the amount of outrage around some of these things, it's like, why can you no longer recycle this? We could never recycle it.
I call it, yeah.
It's too hard to get you to put it in different bins.
Yeah.
They have
and
someone
you're like,
on the line picking it out for you.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's really bad.
removing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you pay less waste levies for.
Also, we have,
We have to go and collect a child. So I'm going to say goodnight to you all. And thanks very
Thanks,
much.
Tamara.
Okay, ciao.
Have a great weekend, Tamara.
You too. Thanks. Ciao.
I absolutely love this. I'll call it a renormalizing of the whole reuse and transformation economy. I mean, one of the things that I think is really sad, but being addressed by things like, tool workshops and some of the spaces where we've got creative tools that are shared, is the fact that we're able to actually find places to transform again. I think that's one of the challenges we face with urban environments, where we just don't have sheds, we don't have tools. So a lot of that creativity and opportunity is just disappearing. But it is so nice to see, even next week, there's a new, local mechanic workshop opening up that's a community space, where, again, this is going to help keep stuff in the economy for longer and stop it from hitting landfill. And just go, that's, everything gets overcome by people that actually see it goes too far, and we'll bring it back a bit. But it's really cool watching it renormalize.
Or maybe everyone should spend one season on a loan.
And those community spaces are so important too, because if you decided, okay, I do want to fix it, and if you've never done that type of fixing before, you might need to get a tool, you might need to get a drill, or you might need to get some pieces or something like that. And to be able to go and actually borrow from someone and potentially be educated how to use it as well too, that can make such a difference.
Too right. And that's the beautiful thing I love about community initiatives. I mean, there's often, it's hard to activate spaces and it's hard to activate initiatives and ideas, but when you can welcome someone and you go, bring something that's broken in, and we'll see if we can fix it together, and probably we might have a quick glass of wine or something like that at the same time. It creates this perpetual knowledge sharing, and it just becomes, again, this new normal which we want.
Oh, I love seeing this shift back from, we've become these sort of mindless consumers, and the shift back to being these hands-on producers who take pride and pleasure in what we do. It's really exciting.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's interesting seeing in the tech space too that people are pushing more and more to have things that can be repaired. So not have bespoke tools that you have to have a special screwdriver to open the thing, or it's glued together and can't actually be repaired. I've seen someone's actually made like a laptop that is, the case is, should in theory be able to plug and play as you get new pieces of technology coming in, and it can be retrofitted and upgraded.
The right to repair movement's actually had a huge amount of movement in the States in the last week or two, if anyone's following that. Huge win against John Deere recently.
With the agricultural equipment that farmers can't, yes?
Because we had
Can you
the tech
explain that to
commission.
those people who haven't heard, Steve? Because not everyone knows about the agricultural equipment, but it's shocking for farmers, shocking.
Oh, too right. Well, there's this company that makes green tractors, and their goal is to make money, because that's what companies do. And so they've locked everyone out of repairing their own equipment. And this has been a big argy-bargy for ages. And it goes against a lot of the other laws, but they've been able to get away with it because they've been protecting the emissions equipment. And that's recently been overturned by the EPA. They said, no, let's make it clear. Anyone, you have to provide open access for independent repairers and farmers to be able to maintain their machinery. And that's really going to keep a lot of stuff back in the system. But the whole legislation change over there at the moment is quite big. It's great.
Yeah, and it's so important because, I mean, that may be a tractor, but as you said, that right to repair movement is driving that hard across all sectors, which is how it should be. The reality that you've had manufacturers designing aspects of, machines and vehicles, whatever it is, but they literally design them in a way that they put the most consumable parts, the parts that wear and tear, deep down into the design, so that for you to get that part out and replace it or repair it or sharpen it, there's a minimum 4 unit hours. So it's basically a case of, that business model that has been turned on its head to screw people over. We'll sell you the printer for $50, but the ink is going to cost you $250 and to install it. And now, there's even been some design put in that you can't put refillable ink into certain printers. And there we are. We're talking tractors, we're talking printers, we're talking vehicles, like all of these. And what's it come back to? It comes back to ethics, It comes back to this deluded profit growth consumption business model that lost its ethics and has become, totally about the bottom line dollar. And there's an exit graph, there's an exit hole, which is waste and somewhere away, and you deal with it, and it's a cost of being business. Those sorts of things are exactly what all of these conversations tonight have been sort of meshing in different ways.
That's funny, Kate. You've got 2 kids, don't you?
I do, and I was going to say, never mind. Yes, I've got 2 children. Yes, that's a fact. Yes.
Have you probably also got an old iPhone in your drawer somewhere?
Oh, it was in my drawer until my tween extracted it and uses it for his own. Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
So
he's kind of absorbed it. Yeah.
Sure. So you look at the ability to empower, particularly 9 and 12-year-olds. You go and you buy a $12, $20 new battery, and you let them rip the phone apart and change it out. If they break it, so what? It's been sitting in a drawer. But I just going to ask how many people had iPhones sitting in the drawer, because again, we've just been doing this recently. We had a bit of an afternoon where we sat there, we ordered a bunch of batteries, and we suddenly got a whole bunch of great iPhones at work again.
To young children who are not allowed to download battery.
Just from changing the battery, $20.
Yeah.
Well, the iPhone's such a good example of what Costa was describing, this dynamic obsolescence. And for my PhD, I researched all the 1950s retailing journals and totally nerded out on consumerism. And it's amazing to look at how they wanted things to be burned up, used, and replaced,
broken,
ritualized consumerism, with no idea about how much it was going to screw up the planet in the 50s. It was all that post-war growth boom business.
I think it started with the light bulb. That's what I watched. The first thing that started, they designed it to last 100 years, and then they went, no, that can't do, because no one will come back in their lifetime. So they made sure they had this planned obsolescence. So that's why this one's blown. I refuse to change it.
But it's good that the opposite of that dynamic obsolescence is the product stewardship that's starting to become normal here. I think I first heard about it 25 years ago in Germany, and now it's finally, with talking about the circular economy, we're thinking about businesses, the onus being on them to take responsibility for the complete life cycle of the products that they create, including their recycling, downcycling, or disposal, which is what we need to make people to actually shift the game. I think we need people to take responsibility, or businesses to take that responsibility, governments to legislate for it.
I think that's exactly right, Kate. That part where for so long it's been cheaper to have something new and consume. But if we actually took into account in that cost model, the cost to procure the materials, ship them around the world, all their emissions, get them to the end consumer, and then end of life, what you're going to do with it, that would mean that the product is more expensive. People will build better quality products, repairable products, and then it will help drive that economy to repair and have better products in the first place that last longer. It's just that we don't factor those costs in at the moment.
No, and people are consuming so much. Our houses are 4 times the size they were, 50 years ago to manage all the crap we're buying.
That's right. And then you try and declutter, and it's painful, and it's
you come up order.
Right. I just want to bring up, if I may, this comment or
condos
question.
full of condo.
from Giovanni, if I can do that, Costa, who gets their eyeglasses put into the old frames. I just want to talk to that because these glasses that I'm wearing for my reading glasses, they're actually made of, we'll call them recycled shampoo bottles. When they're done, they can actually be recycled properly and turned back into glasses. So you don't find that with many brands. That's Dresden glasses, if anyone wants a solution.
Oh, Dresden, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And I hadn't been wearing glasses for very long. In fact, I was a bit weird. I'll say weird. When we were going into the lockdowns, people were buying pasta and toilet paper. I was going dentist, optometrist. And the optometrist says to me, and I knew I was, starting to read and pull the book away and the screen away. And so I wasn't surprised when I was told to wear glasses. And I'm kind of like, no, I want to get the most sustainable pair of glasses I can get. And I was looking what they were made of. I'm like, I can't make this decision on the spot. And I did a bit of a research, and Dresden were happy to post them out, which was lucky because by that time I wasn't allowed to drive there anymore. And it's great. Not all their glasses are from recycled materials, but a lot of them are. But all of them, when you take them back, like if they've been damaged or broken or whatever, they can become glasses again. So, yeah, that's a really innovative example. And something else, I don't mean to give them a plug, but I think I actually asked them because their glasses compared to other glasses are really quite cheap. And I asked them why. The reality is they have one design of glasses in 4 different sizes. So they don't need to have a mold and a machine to make every different design of glass. But they've got a huge color range. And what I love, and I haven't been lucky enough to get when I need to replace them because they haven't had to make them stronger lenses, is that what they do when they change the colors, they get some really random looking ones, which I think are the prize because they could be 2 colors, not the one color there, and you can mix and match, so nothing goes to waste. So that's a really, really good thing to look at.
All right, team. It's 7:24. I think the evening's getting on. We could look with a board of this caliber. We could just go on with it for hours. I have no doubt. But I think we'll wrap it up. It's been an absolute treat. Kate, Jean, and Steve, Bianca, and of course. Kirsty and Tamara, what a treat it's been to get a preview of what's coming up on Saturday. I wish I could be there, but I feel like I've just been given front row seats with the conversations that have happened tonight. So many good things going on. Rest assured that every conversation each and every one of you have on Saturday is amplifying these messages to the next level, and every person that gets hold of of 1 or 2 little details, that's all they need to then take that home and start to apply, the fridge plan and just all of these little practices, but most of all that they're talking about it. So thank you all for talking about it with us tonight.
Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, great job. Thank you.
Thanks
Costa.
once again. I'm just going to pop into the chat. I put it in before, but just to make it easy for everyone, I'll put in the tickets to the festival for those who are in Melbourne and can come. We'd love to see you there. If you're watching now and we see you on the weekend, do make sure you come up and say hi to us because we actually love to. You can see us, but we can't see you. So thank you everyone for joining us, and hope to see you at the festival or maybe online with Costa again soon.
Yeah. All righty. Thanks, Kirsty. Thanks, everyone. And to all the replay viewers, hope you've enjoyed it as well. See you for now.
See ya.